Hello and welcome to Films for the Very First Time. My name is Jordan, and with me, as always, is Casey McGeorge.
Oh, how's it going, everybody?
It's going good. It's going good. We're just a few weeks ahead of schedule now when we're recording, but we just wrapped up our Thanksgiving holidays. So hopefully, anybody that's listening to this in December had a good Thanksgiving. If you're American, Canadian, hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving back in October. And we are moving forward. We got done two big trilogies, the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Terminator trilogy. And now we are going to be talking a 2001 cult classic comedy nowadays. 22 years removed. It is Rat Race, directed by Jerry Zucker, written by Andy Breckman, and premiered August 17th, 2001. I wrote up my own synopsis here. An eccentric billionaire hides money in a lockbox at a train station in Silver City, New Mexico, and picks 8 random strangers from his casino to race for it. So that is the film we are talking about.
That's a pretty succinct synopsis there. I don't know what the actual one sounds like, but if it's hopefully it's not like the Marvel ones they were writing for Secret Invasion.
No, it's actually like a super long one that I had to
There's money in a box. Go find it. Yeah.
cut down. Um, okay, so where were you, Casey, in August of 2001?
I was in Fort Stewart, Georgia. I had just been married. Um, Young man, 2001. I was 23 years old. Yeah. Yeah, I was about to turn 23 years old. Much thinner. Uh, getting ready to watch everything unfold that happened was September 11th. That was like a month away. Little did we know how much the world was going to change
Yeah,
in
I
a
was
month.
actually going to bring that up in this because there's some airport stuff that happens in this that maybe
There-
didn't age well if you're watching it if it's still in theaters in September.
there's a few things in this that don't really age too well.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we'll get to those. We'll get to those. One of them is one of those is played by
John Lovitz.
Lovitz. Well, Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates has a part that is probably not as
I'm okay with that part.
not as well. She uses a certain word that has
Oh
not
yeah,
aged well.
that no, that I get. But
Yeah, yeah. No, the Lovitz parts we'll get to. Um, but yeah, so this movie came out August of 2001. I can't even tell you when I did see this movie. Honestly, I probably did. Yeah, I definitely didn't catch it in theaters. Probably on Comedy Central, but before 2010. So I would say this movie was still less than 10 years old when I had finally saw it, and you know, eventually bought it on DVD and watched it quite a few times. But
so the thing is, I wanted to go see this movie. Um, like I've said before, I'm a fan of the what it's loosely based off of. If it's a mad world, that came out from whatever the '60s or '70s or something like that.
yeah, I believe the
Um,
60s.
so like when I had heard that they were kind of doing a remake of it, and then heard some stuff about it, and then I saw the trailer, I wanted to go see it, but my ex-wife at the time was not into movies like this,
Mm,
so she put the kibosh on it, and I just kind of never got around to it.
that's a shame. That is a shame. Mad World. By the way, it's 4 Mads in there. I know we talked about that last week. I think. 1963, when It's a Mad World came out. But yes, this was loosely inspired by it. I mean, like, it's a mad, mad, mad world has like it's like somebody buries treasure and it's like a stolen goods type of thing. This is
Yeah, there's a guy like falling off a cliff who tells a bunch of people
yes,
about it, and they all decide to go follow it. It's like I think Abbott and Costello are in it. There's like some older comedians in it.
Mickey Rooney
It's
is
still
in it.
pretty funny. It's a good movie,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I've loved it since I was a kid. But so yeah, I guess maybe it's just got the same kind of premise, loosely based off of, or they took the framework of it's a mad, 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 mad world, and just
Mm-hmm.
tweaked it to maybe a more modern, sensibility. I guess not sensibility. Uh, Maybe they just kind of modernized it and updated it. I guess you could say. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. I would say more updated to fit
the
uh
2000s,
the
the early
2000s.
2000s,
Look, this is a very 2000s movie. As
without a shadow of a
we
doubt.
get to the end, especially, it's a very 2001 film, but uh, definitely upgraded in the sense of like updated themes. Focusing on more of like a billionaire doing this,
Yeah,
right? Like, which was probably like, I don't know when the first billionaire was, but that's become more of a thing in that late 90s early 2000s and now on to today, especially where like people know billionaires and know
and the
their name.
billionaire basically taking advantage of everybody. You know,
Yes.
which is it wouldn't surprise me. It's definitely something I could see them doing. A bunch of billionaires getting together and laying bets down on people and various other things.
That's the
Um,
thing. I think this part ages the best is the Cleese stuff, because with how much gambling has actually continued to grow and how many weird parlays they have on some of these apps, it was very funny when you get things like people betting on how long the maids are going to hold on to the window, or who's going to throw up the first on the plane.
one of the things I read was that I guess there was a cut scene of they were actually playing Monopoly with real money
Oh,
at
that's
one
really
point.
funny.
So and like that, I can maybe understand time wise, and maybe it just didn't fit with what was going on. But can you imagine seeing something like that? Like someone owns like the best properties to get are like the oranges and the reds, um, not Boardwalk
Yes.
and Park Place. But can you imagine like a bunch of billionaires like upping the ante, playing with like real money? So now like you've got a hotel on Boardwalk and Park Place. So now 20 forking over 20 grand or whatever for their for landing of their property and things.
Yes. Yeah. So the characters, we have quite a few characters we have to talk about here. We have Donald Sinclair. That is the eccentric billionaire. Uh,
John Cleese.
John Cleese,
That
legend,
man is a treasure.
a legend. I'm not sure if people have watched, any of the Monty Python stuff, of course, but also his great work on Faulty Towers as well, a British comedy.
I think he was in A Fish Called Wanda.
I have his page up right now. I believe I saw that on here earlier. Um, Let me just double check. I mean, he is. Oh my god! I think his filmography is actually on a whole separate page with how much he's been in. Hold on.
Yeah, he's been rocking for a while, but he is. I can't even say a national treasure because he's British. He is an international treasure, man. We need to protect John Cleese at all costs. That guy.
Yeah, I mean that is what is. I mean, how old is he now? 84. Oh my god, that's gonna be a sad day.
Yeah, I
But
was just thinking that. I didn't want to say it, but it's gonna be one of those days, man, where I'll probably be like out on my rail route or something, and like I'll
get the notification.
open up my phone on one of my breaks, and see like John Cleese, founder of one of the founding fathers of Monty Python and comedy legend, passes away at the age of. Hopefully, it's like way past like 102 or
102.
soon. Yeah,
Yeah.
And it's
Um,
like I'm gonna have to stop and like cry for a second because it's just gonna be sad. But the only good thing about that is we'll get all these clips of like his Monty Python sketches and like the life of Brian
yes,
and history of the world. No, it wasn't history of the world.
you're right though.
Monty
Fish
Python
called
and the Holy
Wanda. He's
Monty
in that.
Python and the Holy Grail, and we'll get to see him with that parrot and say his parrot is dead. It ceases to exist.
um, but yeah, so he's kind of been on not a lot recently. You know, he's getting up there in age, obviously. So he's hasn't been in as much
Has he been made
stuff.
a Sir yet?
That's a good question.
Has he been knighted? Because come on,
I don't think so.
if maybe that's not maybe that wasn't the Queen's thing. Maybe Monty Python wasn't the Queen's thing. She didn't look
Yeah,
like she was into that kind of comedy. I get it. Maybe that wasn't her thing. But King of England, come on, man. I'm sure you had some chuckles with Monty Python there back in the day.
it
You
doesn't
need to
look like it.
you
It
need to
doesn't
take
look
care of
like.
that one. That needs to be taken care
um, yes, we have John Cleese as Donald Sinclair, Brecken Meyer
of. What happened
as
to him? Man.
Nick Schaefer. Um,
He was one of those guys that was in all those like teen comedies and
yes,
various things in the early 2000s, and then he just kind of drifted away.
yeah, I'm trying to think of what else he was. So he was in Road Trip as well. So he was
Yeah,
in Road Trip with
with
Amy
Amy Smart.
Smart, and they
Yep.
actually are kissing on the poster, and then they're an item in this movie. So that's really interesting. It's been a while since I've seen Road Trip. Um, oh, he was in Garfield the movie as John Arbuckle. That's funny.
Wow. You
Um,
talking about the one with
Bill Murray. Yeah.
Bill Murray as
Yep.
Garfield? I can't
Uh,
see him as John. I don't. I don't.
he's Josie and the Pussycats. But yeah, mostly I think people would know him from. Oh, he was in Can't Hardly Wait as well with Seth Green. I mean, look, he's been in
Yeah.
all of these movies with the same people. Um,
Like I said, a lot of those guys and
yeah,
girls who were in like those
and Clueless. He was in Clueless as well.
teenage and early 20s comedies, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were in a lot of the same stuff together over and over. So like they're all connected in some way. Surprised they didn't make like another Brat Pack or something out of that.
Yeah, really. But yeah, so he was an uncredited appearance in Can't Hardly Wait, but I'm sure I knew him from there as well. Oh, Melissa Joan Hart was also an uncredited role in that. Um, but yeah, so Breckenmeyer, he's been around a bit. He is all over. He must be really good friends with Seth Green actually, because he's been in Robot Chicken quite a lot. So I assume he
You know
is
what?
good
Now that I
friends with
think
him.
about it, he probably did the voice of like Boba Fett
He did. Yep.
in Robot
Boba
Chicken.
Fett. Yep.
Now that I was thinking about it and I'm hearing the voice, I'm like, yeah, that was probably Boba Fett.
And Admiral Akbar too, actually.
What's
Um,
that, Han? You want me to get closer?
we have Amy Smart. We talked about her a little bit last week, but I said we'll do our deep dive into Amy Smart. Um, look, she was in a lot of stuff from '96 to
She was that
2006.
she
All
was
right.
that cool chick who was in all those once again all those like teenage young adult young 20s comedies and things, and then
Yeah, she
she
was in
drifted away.
um a drama film called Last Time I Committed Suicide. I'd never heard of that. Starship Troopers, High Voltage, um, Varsity Blues, Road
Yep.
Trip, Rat Race, National Lampoon's Barely Legal, uh, The Butterfly Effect, Win a Date with Tad Hamilton, Starsky and Hutch, um, the movie Starsky and Hutch. But she was in a lot of stuff up until around 2006, 2007, and then She was in more sporadic stuff, but she is still out there. She was in a movie called Tyson's Run in 2022. In 2021, she was in a disaster film called 13 Minutes. None of these are big movies. TV shows, though, she was in Stargirl, which was a DC Comics uh, character on the CW. She played a main role on that. And she was also in a few episodes of MacGyver, the reboot. And that's what
Wow.
she's pretty much been doing. She was also in Shameless as well, which I don't watch, and Justified. So there you go. She's still been doing stuff, but yeah, she felt like she was everywhere. Um, back in the day. 47 years old now.
Dude,
Oh, she was
she's
also in
old, man.
Just Friends with Anna Faris and Ryan Reynolds. Um, Cuba Gooding Jr. Owen Templeton.
Was this before or after the Oscar win for Jerry Maguire?
Oh, this would be after, right? Because Jerry Maguire was 96.
Oh, wow.
So he was like one of the biggest names in this thing. He was also in Zoolander and Pearl Harbor in the same year. So 2001 was a pretty big year. He was in 4 films. Then he had Snow Dogs, the Disney classic. Just kidding. It's not a big classic. 2002.
But I think
Is when
that's
he was
when
in Snow
people started
Dogs.
saying, "What happened to Cuba Gooding Jr.?"
Yeah. What is he doing? He was in Rat Race and Snow Dogs. What is going on? But yeah, he was then
Or
he
no,
gets into like
there was a boat movie with Horatio Sands that I think that's when everybody was like, "Okay, what is going on with Cuba
Boat
Gooding
Trip.
Jr.?" Yeah,
That is
because it was
2002 as well. Yeah, so that's Snow
that's when
Dogs and
everybody
Boat
was
Trip.
like, "Okay, this dude just won an Academy Award not that long ago, and now he's doing a movie on a boat with Horatio Sands.
Because
What
he's
is
also in A
going
Few
on?
Good Men,
And what happened?"
Coming to America as like a really small role in that one.
Yeah, I think he was uncredited in Coming to America because
Yeah, it's just a boy getting haircut.
yeah, that's all he was. He was just a dude in a barbershop getting his haircut. He didn't have any lines. And I think me and some buddies had argued about whether or not he was in it. Because I think because he wasn't credited and like you can look back at it now and see the face and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Cuba Gooding Jr. But
2003, he was in Radio, which was another. It was a sports movie. Um, does not have any good.
wasn't that like there wasn't he like a mentally handicapped person or
Yes, I think
something?
they thought. I think he was going for that other Oscar, and it didn't pan out. I think he was going for that. He was
Gotta follow
nominated
that
for.
gotta follow that advice from Tropic Thunder.
He was nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award for worst actor.
He
So
didn't follow the Tropic Thunder advice.
no. Norbit, he goes up. He ends up in Norbit and Daddy Day Camp. Uh, yeah, he had a bit of a fall from grace, I guess. But it was also he's probably like, hey, I won my Oscar. I'm making some money, getting some of these other roles. Television, not as much in there. He was in American Crime Story, People versus O.J. Simpson as O.J.
Yep,
Simpson, which I did not see, but heard
I
good
have.
things about
Yeah, I heard it's great.
his. He was nominated for Emmys. But yeah, so he's been in quite a few things since then. Then we have Seth Green as Dwayne Cody. And Seth Green, he's been around forever as well now. Just doing so many movies as a kid and young teenager as he continues to grow up. I guess he was in Austin Powers. I don't know when his big break was. Buffy, I guess, in '92, the movie. And then he was also in the
He was in the
show,
movie?
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was in the show for sure. I didn't
Yeah, it
know he
has
was in
him
the
in the
movie.
movie as a vampire.
Oh wow.
It's
Um,
funny.
definitely wasn't. He didn't play. I tell you right now, he didn't play the same role.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think his bigger. I think I first remember him from Austin Powers because I didn't watch the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer until way later. To one of my deployments to Iraq, There's
Mm.
someone who was a friend of mine at the time told me we used to have these little shops that would sell bootleg DVDs and various movies and TV shows. So you could get like the full box set of like TV show series for like $30 because they basically ripped them from like the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were perusing in there one day, saw it, and I was like, he was talking about it, and I was like, nah, because in all fairness, like thinking about it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer didn't seem like I was the demographic for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, no, it's a good show. He's like, look, it's $30. If you don't like it, just I'll buy it off you. Okay, sure, why not? Like, and plus, like, you have time over there, so at some point you run out of stuff to watch, and you start watching other stuff. And Buffy was actually really good.
And then, obviously he is Chris Griffin, and in Family
Family Guy
Guy.
does a bunch of stuff with Robot Chicken.
Yes, yep, he has been all over the place. The person playing his brother is Vince Viloof, who's not doesn't have as many credits. But I did recognize him while I was watching this movie again, and I just found out why. He's in an episode of Friends, one of Ross's students when he's teaching college. So,
So
um, yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about this now or later, but that character just turned me off. Like that character, his brother,
Mm-hmm.
because of the tongue ring that he pierced himself with.
Mm-hmm.
Like it just took me out of it every time. It started angering me. I know it's stupid. I know it's silly. I can acknowledge that 100%. And I might be the only person that happened to out there. But I was like, man, they could have this made no sense. Like they could have, I hated it. I hated that character. Almost at Mateo levels.
Oh, geez. If people listen to our break room episodes for Superstore, you know that's serious.
He's getting, like, that character was getting real close to Mateo level.
We also had Lene Chapman, who played Meryl, which was Whoopi's daughter in this.
I don't know her from anything. I don't even remember seeing her in anything before.
Yeah, apparently she was in like Judging Amy, Grey's Anatomy, just like a few like bit roles in all of these episodes of TV shows, and that's it. Um, so yeah, not a lot on her page. And then we had Whoopi Goldberg, which of course, everybody knows Whoopi, and now they probably know her from The View or something. But she was in Ghost, and she was in The Color Purple and Sister Act, and
She's won an Academy Award and she was nominated for a couple.
she's an EGOT winner, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, she has a Grammy, an Emmy, Oscar, and a Tony. So
She was before, and she was one of the founding people who started Comic Relief too, with Robin Williams and Billy Crystal. She was a stand-up comedian back in the day, and I like you said, a lot of people nowadays might only know her from The View, but she was very multifaceted. Sister Act movies were actually pretty big in their time too.
yeah, they were. I think they're only a year apart too. I think they I think they pulled that sequel out really quick. John Lovitz
Love this
playing
guy.
Randy Pear, and John Lovitz, people mostly know from Saturday Night Live. He was also in
The
a
critic.
bunch of stuff.
He was
Yeah,
the
the
voice
critic.
of
He
Art
was even in
Sherman.
A League of Their Own. He does voices on The Simpsons. He was in. He replaced Phil Hartman on News Radio after Phil Hartman passed away. He came in as a new character because he was good friends with Phil Hartman. So yeah, he's been in so much stuff.
He's an underrated guy too.
Yes.
Great comedic actor. One of my favorite skits from Saturday Night Live was when he played the devil on People's Court, and Phil Hartman was Judge Wapner, and it was just so great. Mr. Mephistopheles, and just
His wife in this show is played by Kathy Najimy. She voices Peggy Hill in King of the Hill.
I found that out as I was as I was watching this and looking up some of the people. I was
Mostly
like,
voice work is what she does. But
I know this girl. I don't know where I know her from. And then I was like, oh, she was in the movie with the witches there.
Hocus Pocus, yeah, she's
Yes.
Mary Sanderson, and then also she is in Sister Act 2.
Yep, with Whoopi
so
Goldberg.
so many of these people have been crossed over in all of these different films with each other.
And then as I was reading it, I'm like, wait, she does the voice of Peggy Hill?
Yeah,
And
that's something I didn't
I've
know.
watched King of the Hill, and I was like, then I started thinking about it, and as she was talking, I was like, okay, I can hear it now. Like,
Yeah, yeah. We of course have Rowan Atkinson. Most people know him as Mr. Bean. Some people may know him as Johnny English. People might know him as Black Alder. I mean, he is in Blackadder. He's in so much stuff, especially over in England. But people, he plays Zazu in The Lion King as well. So,
see, I didn't know that either. I that was
mm,
another thing I found out as I was watching through, because obviously I was like, okay, I know him as Mr. Bean. I know he's done some other stuff. But then they're like, he voiced the character in The Lion King. I was like, wait a minute. And this was, I think, before I'd seen Mr. Bean, so I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have recognized the voice anyway because Mr. Bean doesn't really talk.
yeah, Bean just says Bean.
Yeah,
It's like
he
all he
just
really
kind of
says.
like just makes grunts and sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But if you haven't watched any Mr. Bean, check some of his stuff out because it is. He's one of the few people who can do comedic stuff and not say a
Yes.
word and tell a complete story, and you'll laugh your ass off.
I love Mr. Bean so much. He's also going to be in Wonka, which might release by the time this show releases. So I guess check out Wonka if you're a Rowan Atkinson stan. We have Dave Thomas, who plays Harold Grisham, the attorney. This is also he's in Arrested Development as Trevor, the uncle of Rita, who is the British
I thought he was
Mr.
a
F.
butler. I thought he was a butler.
No, he's not in this.
Yeah,
No, he's his lawyer. Actually, he's a lawyer that signs off on all of the
I,
paperwork.
I couldn't. I knew I recognized him too, and I couldn't figure out where where I recognized it from. And then he
Mm-hmm.
brought up, Rest Development, Rita's uncle. I was like, okay, now I remember.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff too. I'm looking at his thing. Just not mostly like bit parts. Um, Wayne Knight, obviously Newman from Seinfeld, is playing a medical supply driver,
Hello, Newman.
and then we also just have Dean Cain as Tracy's ex-boyfriend. We have Colleen Camp as a Rainbow House nurse. She
Whoa,
was
whoa,
in
whoa,
Clue.
whoa, 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 whoa. Colleen Camp was in this?
Yeah, she plays Rainbow House nurse. I think she's the person trying to get Whoopi and her daughter back on the bus.
Okay, I might have to watch this movie again because Clue is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yes, and she
I
plays
love.
Yvette, right?
Yes, Colleen Camp was just. She was one of my first crushes as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her in that French maid outfit, she's an incredibly beautiful woman, and I know she's still done some acting, but man, I'm gonna have to look that up now. I did not know
We have Rance Howard, Ron Howard's father. He's the one that is at the concert at the end that says, "Here's all of my children." We even have Gloria Allred. They drop
that.
her name a few
Yes,
times. She's a real lawyer that gets shouted out in this.
she is. She was one of those lawyers back in the '80s and '90s that was fighting for like women's rights and a bunch of other stuff. She's been involved in some very very top heavy lawsuits, um,
Mm.
and she was one of those like if she was on the other side, a lot of times people were like, "Oh man," if she's listed as a discrimination attorney and a feminist lawyer. Um, she
Uh,
but
it's funny
she's
though.
one of
I didn't
she's one
know
of
that.
those.
and I just thought like it's some joke about obviously just how we are with lawyers and stuff over here and suing in America, but then they get an actual person playing the role, so I think it's funny.
No. Um, she represented Nicole Brown Simpson's family during the O.J. Simpson murder trial. 11-year-old Katrina Yaw and Yaw versus the Boy Scouts of America to determine whether they could preclude women from membership or girls from membership. Represented a Melrose Place actress when she sued Aaron Spelling because she was fired because she was pregnant. She wrote a letter to Child Protective Services after Michael Jackson held his son over a balcony.
Jeez.
Yeah, she was. She's one of those, like I said, if her name was attached to it, it was one of those like, oh man.
We also have Smash Mouth appear at the end, and Steve Harwell, who just passed away earlier this year. So I've totally forgot they were in this movie, and I love Smash Mouth. So it was like a bittersweet thing for me.
It was for me too because I want to say just last week I realized I didn't have any Smash Mouth in my music collection. So I went on to iTunes and bought I think I bought like 3 songs. Obviously I bought All Star, bought I'm a Believer, and I bought the one where I can't think of the name of it, but it's the one where they would play it at like the beginning of crime movies and stuff all the time.
Huh. I will say my favorite one of theirs is probably Walking on the Sun. I like that.
I think that's the one I was thinking of.
And Pacific Coast Party, by the way, doesn't get enough shout out for Smash Mouth, but it's one of my favorites as well. It used to be in this Disney skateboarding game I had.
Yeah, Walking on the Sun was the other one.
There you go. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about these characters in these movies. So in this movie, the way it kind of starts out here, right, is we have Donald Sinclair is hosting a bunch of high rollers. We don't know it at the time, but we're mostly focused on meeting our characters in the middle of their time. Breckman Meyer is complaining about the Afro whores being on his bill. He did not watch that.
While there's a black family behind him in line,
yes,
of course,
with kids,
right? And it was like 11 times they ordered the movie.
Afro whores at 2:30, Afro whores at 5:00.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. And he said, he's not in the room. Somebody else must have done it. I wonder who did then. It's surprising. I guess we don't really get
in all fairness, I'm not sure if I really want to know who might have done that. That's probably one they can keep to themselves.
Maybe it's Mr. Bean, Enrico Pollini.
But you know what? I can understand his character because he's a lawyer or something, right? He's a lawyer himself.
And his friend alludes to it, right? Like, oh, you don't want to do anything because you're worried it'll get out and you won't be able to become like Attorney General.
Yeah. So this takes place in like 2001. So this is the beginnings of the internet, right? This is before we have social media and all the other stupid stuff that teenagers and kids do now.
Yep.
But this is also when cameras were starting to get really compact and small, and video footage could be recorded at any time. We're starting to see a lot of stuff happen early in this time, and like instead of like just some weird random Polaroid of like maybe you were smoking pot in the 70s, right? That would come up like if you ran for public office or something. Like people are starting to realize like, hey, this stuff can come back to bite me in the butt later. And if he's got aspirations of like he wants to be Attorney General of the United States, like, yeah, he's kind of got to live a fairly clean life. Otherwise, like as soon as he gets nominated, there's gonna be people from his past who are gonna like try and pull stuff up. So
and cameras are getting better at this time too. Like compared to older times where I felt like you had to have,
we're starting to get digital cameras at this time.
Starting to get digital cameras. You're starting to get clearer cameras that can shoot further away, that can get
Yeah.
clearer pictures. So yeah, it's a little, and then like you said, on top of that, with the internet, that thing can spread pretty quickly.
So I mean, I can understand his friend saying like, "Hey, man, you got to live life. You can't just hide and live like that." But I can also understand his point of like, if he's got these aspirations, man, he's got to kind of keep on the straight and narrow until he can't be having hotel receipts out there where he paid for Afro Horse 15 times or whatever it is in one night. You know, that's going to come back out in 20 years when they're trying to nominate him for Attorney General. So
Yeah, plus you also just don't want to get charged for it too, right? Like, I mean, there's that too. Like,
1999 or whatever it is,
yeah.
per shot there. So
Um. Okay, so we have him contesting that. He hasn't even gambled the whole time yet, and he's gonna gamble once, and that's where he's gonna get his gold coin from. Where he's gonna get picked uh, for this opportunity. We also meet Owen Templeton, a disgraced football referee who blew a call. Not just any call. He blew heads or tails. He blew the easiest
so
decision that you can make.
that was real, right?
No, I did not. Is that a real thing?
Okay, so yes, it was a thank. This is picture perfect timing. I watched this on Thanksgiving Day, right? So as everybody knows, Thanksgiving Day is a big holiday here in the U.S. You get football games. For the longest time, you had two games. Dallas Cowboys will host a game. Detroit Lions will host a game. Now you get at least three, sometimes like four. Late 90s, the Detroit Lions were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, right? This
Mm-hmm.
is why the coin toss is the way it is for a game now. Because this happened. The game goes into overtime, right? So the referee has the coin. Jerome Bettis is one of the captains for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the visiting team gets to call it. So he shows them the coin. This is heads, this is tails. It used to be like call it in the air. It used to be like they would say call it in the air. They would flip it, and then you could call heads or tails while it was in the air. And then it would land, whatever the case is. So he does that. Call it in the air. I don't know which one, but either way, you can clearly hear Jerome Bettis say like heads. And then he calls tails. And then it comes up heads. And Jerome Bettis, who's a very large dude, is like, no, I call heads. And it was a big controversy
Oh
because
my
that
god!
was back then. At the time, the overtime rules were first team to score wins. So
Right.
if you get a field goal, safety, whatever the case is, sudden death, first team to score wins. Detroit goes, I think they kick a field goal, they win the game.
Mm.
And then after that, I think the next year or so is when the NFL changed the rules where you now have to call it
Beforehand.
before the referee flips the coin. So that is actually based on an actual
Wow.
100% real life thing. And I remember watching this game and everybody was like, what was this referee doing? Because you can clearly hear him call he makes the right call. But the
Mm.
referee's like, nope, you called tails or whatever it is. And it's just like, it was a horrible thing.
Yeah. So we have Owen Templeton watching. He's at the bar drinking. You're not sure why at that point, and then the report comes on the TV, and he's out of there. He slinks off while the report's playing.
Which also, side note, technically, even though the referees aren't full time employees of the NFL, not sure if they'd be allowed to be in a casino,
True.
especially nowadays with all the gambling stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Maybe at the
Bad
time
look.
this was happening, if it wasn't during the season, I don't know, possibly, but not sure if they would want their referees to be in a casino. The NFL is very big on how their product looks when it comes to gambling things.
We have Meryl Jennings and her mom Vera meeting for the very first time since Vera had to give her up for adoption. Um, we have a gambling addict, Randy Pear, and his family, as he's trying to uh, come up with an excuse to leave the room so he can gamble. And then we have Enrico Polini, and they all get the golden uh, coin, along with the two brothers, Dwayne and Blaine, who were trying to cause an
Scam.
accident
Yeah, they're trying to
to
scam the casino.
scam the casino, and instead they get somebody else injured, and
That's our first appearance of Gloria Aldred.
yes, and they're gonna get their she's gonna get their money. Um, but yeah, so then these six coins, and you have a couple people with each person, right? Like you have the mother daughter duo, you have the brother duo, and you have Randy and his family, who all are invited. Randy doesn't tell his family though, but they all go up to this conference room, and this is where we get the introduction of John Cleese as Donald Sinclair, and his introduction, of course, is great when he comes in and says,
I love this.
"A meteor is going
Go.
to hit the
Oh yeah.
planet, and we're going to repopulate Earth." And there's
It's up to
two women
us.
in this thing too, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, so at the time it's only Whoopi Goldberg and her daughter there. That's it.
Yeah, and and then he just does his eccentric laugh, and he says, "Oh no," and then they bring in the Nick ends up coming in a little later, staying closer to the door. And the clip that I used for this in the podcast last week is him explaining about the money and stuff. But I cut out the part, I think, where, I was trying to keep it in, but it started becoming like 2 minutes long when he's saying, like, go, and then nobody's going.
Technically, what's his name
Yeah,
is
Mr.
winning right now
Schaefer.
because he's closest to the door.
Yes. You guys have been
Go.
racing for 40 seconds. And then he has to pull out the starter pistol to actually get them going. But
You can't do that. Yes, I can. I'm eccentric.
yes, or whatever he does.
John Cleese is just a damn treasure, man. Oh, I love that guy.
He is. He's got a great voice too. He's got such a good voice. But yes, he has put a duffel bag of $2 million in a lockbox in a train station lockbox 0001
Train station locker. Yep.
train station locker, and
He's
he
made.
has 6 identical keys, and the first person there gets to keep all the $2 million, then go, right? It's how he says it, and nobody actually gets up to leave yet.
Okay. I'm sure we would get to this at some point. You're wandering around the casino in Vegas. You play a slot machine. You get this gold coin that says, "Hey, take this to customer service for a special prize." Right? You're probably thinking maybe it's a buffet.
Like a
You know,
timeshare pitch.
yeah, it's a time. It's free dinner. It's a free dinner, so they can try and get you to buy a timeshare, right? But you're like, you know what? Especially if it's a buffet, like those buffets are slamming. Those things are great. I will eat the house out of a buffet. Well, not anymore since I lost a bunch of weight. At one point, I would have taken the house down through the buffet. Um, they take you up there. This eccentric British dude, does this, gives you this whole explanation, tells you go. Are you even getting involved in this?
Yes, I'm going. I'm going. One of my favorite shows to watch is Amazing Race, and I've always wanted to be on the Amazing Race. And even so, for my mom's birthday, the one year we went down to Florida, I made my own Amazing Race around Walt Disney World, and we all competed in it. Not for money or anything, just like, trying to solve clues, get to the location before everybody else, all that kind of stuff. And that's a lot of fun. Now, if you're telling me it's $2 million in 2001 money, yes, I'm going to do it.
I gotta say, I don't think I'm gonna do it.
You don't think you're going to do it?
Look, I'm not gonna lie. The aspect of $2 million is life changing, right? Like, I'm not gonna lie. The money is definitely the motivating factor. But I think you know me well enough by now, even though we've never met in real life, right? But we've been doing this. We've been podcasting and talking for what, like 6 years now. I
Yeah.
tend to overthink things, right? And I try and think through all different kinds of scenarios when it comes to stuff like this, right? So, first of all, there's no, like only one person gets to keep it, right? Yes, you have a 1 in 7 chance of winning, but you have a six out of 7 chance of not winning. Two, people are going to get gruff. They're going to get violent. They're going to get evil. Bad things are going to happen when there's that much money on the line. And there's only one chance to get it. Three, I got to look at, I don't even know if I can afford the hidden cost of trying to go get this money. Okay. And as we'll see watching the movie, like, you got to go from here. They're in Las Vegas. They got to go from there to Silver Springs, New Mexico, right? So they try flights. They try, one person tries a helicopter. They're renting cars. They're stealing buses. They're buying, someone bought a train ticket, which I don't know where the bullet train came from. All of a sudden there's a bullet train from out of nowhere in the middle of Mexico. But like, there's hidden costs that take all this, right? Like, I mean, especially if you're there on vacation, you might have a little extra money, but you're probably kind of budgeted as far as like, hey, this is the money I'm going to spend on my vacation. You know, I got money for food. I got money for this. I got money for that. Do you have extra random couple of $1,000 laying around to go and take this trip on a hope and a wing and a prayer that you're going to get $2 million out of it? Because if you get there and the locker's empty, guess what? You're out. There's no second prize. There's no third place. There's no bronze medal. It's literally just you win and you get $2 million or you get nothing. I don't, for me, I don't know if the risk would be worth the reward. And I know that's going to sound silly. And people who are listening to this are like, you're out of your damn mind. You're doing it. But I honestly don't know if I would. I might have to bow out.
Las Vegas to Silver City, New Mexico, 580 miles, about 9-hour trip. Just wanted to share that. I wasn't sure Silver City, New Mexico is actually a real place. I thought maybe it's made up for this.
And in all fairness, if I was going to do it, I probably would have tried to drive in the first place.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah. That's the thing, right? Because we got to think pre 9/11 here. So you're looking at it was probably easier to get in and out of an airport compared to.
There's no probably. It is easier.
Yeah,
you can also just go up and buy tickets straight. Not even that. You can just literally go up and buy a ticket with cash straight at the lady at the desk. You don't have to worry about booking everything ahead of time and early, going through TSA pre-check and having a real ID to validate everything to get on and all this other stuff. So yeah, no, it's much easier. Don't get me wrong. You could just roll up and be like, give me a one-way ticket to Albuquerque or El Paso, Texas, right? And then figure out where you're going to go from there. But 600 miles, like you said, that's a 10, 12-hour trip. I could do that easily.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So you were saying you wouldn't do it. Would you gamble on it though? So there's these people that, I guess it is
other eccentric billionaires.
Yeah, other eccentric billionaires who, I really like this idea. John Cleese is like, hey, I'm giving you something like a horse race, right? But with people that can backstab, they can think on their own, that are going to do whatever it takes to get there. You can't get that anywhere else. And it is a good idea in the sense of like he is offering a different type of gambling thing that the 2 million is probably nothing for him. So he's going to make more of it off of these people gambling on the results of the race. And would you gamble on something like this? Because it almost falls apart immediately for the people that gambled on on Rowan Atkinson's character, because he immediately has this narcoleptic spell and Enrico falls asleep in the middle of the lobby.
Okay, before we get to the gambling part, Rowan Atkinson, another international treasure. The simple fact that they gave this dude narcolepsy, where he's just walking through the casino and falls asleep standing up in the middle of the casino for like 8 hours.
Yes.
And doesn't wake up until the kids start poking him. Fantastic touch. Love that. Back to the gambling. Yeah. Look, if I'm an eccentric, if I'm rich enough to be invited into that club where I'm an eccentric billionaire, right? And like we talked about, these people have one of the scenes they cut is they play Monopoly with real money, and they're like, if I have billions of dollars that I can just blow, yeah, I'll take a stab at like a couple of these people with odds. I'll bet on these people because, like you said, I'm not really losing that much. Like a couple $100,000, maybe $1 million. But if
So
I'm a
who?
billionaire, it's not that big of a deal.
All right, so you see all of these cast of characters. Who are you putting your money on if you're on the other side of that two-way mirror there?
Okay, so once again, I'm gonna use my brain that overthinks everything. Anybody in a group, I'm automatically disqualified.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. You go for
There's
somebody that just has the
too
one person.
too many issues. Yeah. So Whoopi and her daughter automatically out. Uh, dude with his family automatically out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't. Too many variables. That like too many bad things can happen. They could stop you in the middle of it. Not put my money on it. So that leaves Breckenmeyer. That leaves Mr. Bean. That leaves the
Cuba Gooding
referee.
Jr. Yep.
And who else do we
And that's
got?
it, because you have the brothers too, and they're
Yeah,
out.
the brothers are out because yeah, family and their brothers and his group they're out. So that leaves me three people. I might have to disqualify Cuba Gooding Jr. because he's too well known at this point. Because everybody like he's too recognizable.
Yeah,
So
people stopping him, getting angry
or
with him.
that's the issue. People getting angry with him, and as we see, because he cost them money because of his horrible coin toss that ruined the game, right? And it's all over the news and it's all over everything. He's gone. So that leaves Breckenmeyer and that leaves Mr. Bean. Now, before we know Mr. Bean is a narcoleptic, I think he's got pretty good odds, but I would probably go with Breckenmeyer. He
And
probably
then the
would have
thing
been
is,
my
he
choice.
becomes part of a group that you don't know that though until after he's in the middle of the race.
Yeah, now once again, anything can happen once the race
Yeah,
starts,
yeah.
right? Like, I mean, like, could you have bet on a bus full of Lucy's? No, no, you could not have. Who saw that coming? Right? Come on, let's be realistic.
um,
Who would
yes,
you have went with?
uh, that's a good question. I think I think you have the right idea that you have to go without groups, right? So I would probably lean towards Schaefer as well because he's also an attorney, which we know that John Cleese's character knows like everything about them. So while
Yeah,
some people might be like, well, Randy's family isn't at the luncheon thing, so they wouldn't know about that. But he mentions him being on a family vacation, so he knows that. That means the gamblers know that.
and he can't leave his family there, right? He's gonna have
Right?
to take his
He
family.
tries.
He
He
tries, but
tries.
come on, realistically, like you're gonna leave your family in Vegas for like a 3-day bender and then come back. You're not gonna have a family. He's out. Go.
I'm not sure if I'm betting on Enrico because he's like, oh, Nick should be our leader. You know, he's smart and stuff. And I'm like, all right, this is not a
He
team
said
sport.
race. He said
It's a
race.
race. Um,
You know
I
what
just
that reminded me of?
what?
Well, what was it? Euro Trip? Miss Scusi. Have
I
you
don't
ever
know
seen
if I've
Euro
seen
Trip?
Euro Trip. I've seen bits of it. I think.
They had some weird Italian dude. It was kind of like one of those teenage comedies back in
Mm-hmm.
that time
It
frame.
was like right after Road Trip, right?
Yeah, going around Europe, blah blah blah. Surprised Amy Smart wasn't in it,
Yeah,
but
that's what I was thinking. And Breck and Meyer, like none of those are in it.
but they had some weird Italian dude that they kept running into, who was just weird. Miss Scusi. And also had a great cameo by Matt Damon singing a song called "Scotty Doesn't Know" because he was cheating on a
Mm.
dude's girlfriend was cheating on him with Matt Damon, who was the leader of this band, and he wrote a whole song about it called "Scotty Doesn't Know."
That's funny.
It's hilarious.
I'm looking at the cast of this, so the only one I really know is Michelle Trachtenberg.
I don't know. Look up like Italian guy from Eurotrip. You'll see he has like this little pencil thin mustache, and I don't know. It's just
Let's see. It says creepy Italian guy. Oh, it's Fred
that's
Armisen.
I did not know that,
It's
but
Fred
now
Armisen.
I
There
can
you
I
go.
can kind of see that. But yeah, yeah, creepy Italian guy is the perfect name for him.
Yeah. So they start on this race. A few of them say that they're not going to actually do it.
And then they try running down the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator, right?
You have this great scene where they're all like, oh, we're not going to do it, but you have Enrico like stretching, getting ready for the race, and then you have everybody fall down the steps, and then just Breckenmeyer's character just taking the elevator and being like holding the door for somebody because
Yeah.
he's not actually going to do it, and he actually throws the key away until he hears that the planes are going to stop him from going home, and then he knows that everyone's in the same boat that he's in. So
Well, no, he throws it away, and then because he had met up with Amy Smart.
yes.
He tries to buy her a drink, right? Because they're reading the same book,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, "No, I'm flying. I'm a pilot." So he thinks she's an airline pilot or
Yes, yeah.
airplane pilot. And then when he still tries to buy her a drink because he's like, "Oh, everybody's grounded," she's like, "No, I'm a helicopter pilot. We don't use the same system." That's when he like it hits him, and that's when he goes and tries to get
Mm-hmm.
his key back because he realizes, "Oh, I know a helicopter pilot who happens to be going to New Mexico, right?" And you know, so that's when he's digging through the trash to try and find his key again. Which I mean, look, if you had your money on him and you're watching all this happen, you're like, oh, this is in the bag. Like he meets a helicopter pilot, a fairly attractive helicopter pilot who's on the way to New Mexico. They're the only ones that are gonna get off the ground. Like he's got it in the bag. He's golden. It's gold, Jerry. It's gold.
Yeah, a little odd though that she had a boyfriend because she was like, even like when he steps away after his first introduction to her, she's got like this smile as if like, oh, I kind of like this guy, and then you know, well, we find out he lies, right? He says it's his sister or something who's hurt, and he needs to get to the hospital, so she's gonna fly him
From a
on the
shark
helicopter.
attack. Because there's a hospital in Silver
Yes,
City, New Mexico that has a
in
shark in it or
landlocked
something.
New Mexico with a shark unit. Um, but yeah, he decides, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and we have, John Lovett's character is trying to convince his wife and kids that he has a job with fountain pens in Silver City, New Mexico, and they got to get there for the interview.
He's got to get there. It'd be just much faster if he goes by himself.
Yes. Let me just say, I was going to ask this later, but for me, Lovitz makes the movie for me. He is the character that every time we get back to his character, I'm like, all right, here it is. Because
It's so much more wacky every single time.
yeah, and he just sells it so well. Like, there's things that I forgot about in this movie that are a little over the top. The helicopter chase, right, is very over the top as she's going through through the highway trying to
Yeah,
chase Dean Cain here. Um, and you have
trying to
like
take Superman out. Jesus.
the cow, and the hot air balloon, all over the top stuff. But the Lovett stuff is while it's wacky, it is a lot more a lot more
Plausible?
grounded. I'm
A
gonna
lot more
say
plausible?
yes. When they go to the Barbie museum,
That, okay. The Barbie Museum just took okay, we're traveling down the freeway, right?
yeah,
I'm in the passenger seat of this vehicle because you recommended this movie. So you're driving. I'm in the passenger seat of this car. I'm not paying attention. This just took a wild left-hand turn that's not on the map. I did not see coming. Like, oh, it's the Barbie Museum. Let's go to the Barbie Museum. And it's like I was just like, what the hell is this?
and it's so great too because like Lovett's whole character, it's alluded to that they are Jewish, right? And he is very like uh telling his kid like you can't because his kid wants to drive a Volkswagen, right?
Yeah.
And he says you can't because that the Nazis drove that. And then it comes back around with this Barbie museum and them taking Hitler's car. When the son is playing the harmonica, and he's like, "You can't play the harmonica. It's Hitler's harmonica."
Hitler's
He's like, "You're
harmonica.
driving Hitler's car." And then the daughter
That's
pulls
great.
out the Ava Braun sunglasses, and he's just losing it. Like he's lost control of the situation.
And the lip, there's lipstick all of a sudden.
Yeah,
Like
Ava
everybody,
Braun's lipstick.
his wife is like, "Oh, she's
She
got
had
good taste."
style.
Yeah, and you're just like, "Oh man."
And then they
Okay,
crash into World War II vets, and
so
he has his burnt tongue.
okay, before that, let's take about 2 steps back.
Yes.
So with the lipstick or whatever, okay, he does whatever. He hits a bump. Next thing I know, there's lipstick on the steering wheel. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where this was going. Like I knew it was going to be a setup for something.
Yeah.
Right. Once again, this took a whole nother wild left hand turn. Like I thought we were going back on the highway, and it's not. It took us deeper in the woods. Because next thing I know, he hits another bump, right? Or he hits a bump as he's crashing into the World War II veterans memoriam and everything. Next thing I know, he hits the steering wheel after he burns his tongue on the lighter, because the lighter ends up in his mouth, so he burns his tongue. He hits his lip on the steering wheel. Now he's got a Hitler mustache. He pops out Hitler's old vehicle with swastikas and everything all over the place, right?
After he's flipping off the person because he burnt his finger.
Yeah, he's flipping off a lady on a motorcycle. That doesn't go well, so they start beating the hell out of his it's not his. He starts beating the hell out of Hitler's car. He hops out this thing, and he can't speak because his tongue is burnt. So he's only getting partial words out, but it sounds German.
Sounds German.
And his hand keeps going up, giving what he looks like a high salute and everything, and it's just like, oh my god! And it's one of those like John Lovitz is a real pro, because I don't know for sure, but I imagine with the name of Lovitz, like he's probably Jewish, or there's a good chance he might be of Jewish descent. I don't know, but like. I don't know if he had to like search inside himself to be like, am I really okay with doing this? But ultimately he decided he was okay with doing it, right? So it's for comedy. Like I think everybody knew he liked you, but so this is one of those things that doesn't age well. I don't know if this is made today. This is filmed and allowed to be shown in
Really?
the total goofiness that it is. I think it would have to go even more goofier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it would have to be so far out there that it might lose some of its hilarity because they had to go so far with it to show that it was just pure comedy and like they were doing it just for yucks as compared to this.
I would disagree there. I think this could be completely left alone. I think this actually ages pretty well.
It's hilarious. Don't get me wrong.
It's hilarious.
hilarious.
I mean,
I'm not.
It's like I don't think anything has happened since then to make people think like, oh, we couldn't do that today. Like this is still a.
I don't know. We've had like people marching with swastikas and things. And
true. But I mean,
the Nazis unfortunately have made a comeback in like the last 10 years. Like
yes, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like they might have to go so far over the top, like. Which honestly, I never thought that's a sentence that should have been said, or I thought I'd ever say that the Nazis have made a comeback in like the last 10 years. Like if you would have told old Steve Rogers in 1944 that in 2000 teens and 20s the Nazis would made a comeback, he probably would have punched you in the face. And you deserve it, because Captain America, like you don't tell Captain America the Nazis are going to make a comeback, but look what happened.
But yeah, so they this is my favorite scene of the whole thing, by the way. This whole storyline with John Lovitz and
he ends up drugging his family.
He drugs his family. Oh my god! With the milkshakes.
Yeah.
gets
Okay.
him
So
into a random 18 wheeler. I mean,
okay. So let's look at this now. So he finally comes clean to his family that yeah, like he's lied to him, and there's a bag with $2 million he's trying to get to. Blah blah blah. So they're all upset at him, rightfully so. Look at everything that's happened over the last several hours. The Barbie Museum, which wasn't his fault because he didn't want to go, right? I
that
mean,
is correct. He did not cause
he,
this
he
Barbie
did
event.
not want to go there. Um, but all that, but rightfully so. It's a lot of incidents. And all of a sudden, like he comes back 10 minutes later, like, "Hey guys, I have chocolate milkshakes for everybody."
No hard feelings.
Now, I'm not gonna think she's gonna drug me right off the bat. Don't get me wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also not really gonna be like trusting of him too much because nobody notices he's dragging his drugged family out of this diner and
Mm-hmm.
decides to call the cops. Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's a little,
that's
you know,
serial killerish right there.
a little hand waving there, right? Because yeah, he had to get all three of them out of there.
That's the kind of thing a serial killer does.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so that is pretty much his whole story. If we're looking at John Lovett's Randy and the family there.
Let's go to Whoopi and her daughter.
Yes, yes. They don't get too much to do, honestly. So they get they get lost.
They might have been able to do more if they would have bought a squirrel.
Yeah, yeah. They also had the private charter, right? That got grounded as well. So
Yep.
they really probably would have been the winners.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't have seen that coming. Let's be realistic. You can't
yeah.
really. Who would have saw that they would have had a private plane?
And they're two people that don't even know each other really, even though they are blood. So like, uh, you might think, oh, they're not going to work out together well,
Yeah,
but
it wouldn't take much for a disagreement to like split them up.
yeah, yeah. But Vera's kind of just on the ride, right? She's just on the ride. She's chatting it up with Kathy Bates' character. She loves it. Um, but yeah, so they don't want a squirrel that can shake their hand. And she gives her the "I love squirrels" bag that has the nuts in it, and she says to feed squirrels as you go. But she gives her these very
Specific
specific
directions
directions,
at exactly like 8.1 miles.
and I forgot how this played out. Um, but she does this for everybody that doesn't buy squirrels. So there's just a collection of cars and even a skeleton that is
She,
there.
she is like one of the top 10 serial killers in American history at this point.
Yeah, you would think she says she gets that question a lot, right? When she's like, "This happens a lot." Maybe because I'm like close to the highway or something. She says like she's like this happens quite a lot. And then you see a bunch of cars. I mean, it is a lot of cars. Um,
This is like serious. Like this is the kind of thing a podcast and it would be made about years from now, right? Where you talk about the squirrel lady of New Mexico or the squirrel lady of Nevada who killed 78 complete strangers because they didn't buy a squirrel, and somehow got finally gets caught, and now she's like facing the death penalty or whatever.
yeah. So is this something that like Vera and her daughter like tell somebody afterwards? Like, hey, there was this squirrel farm like in Nevada
I
where
would hope
she
so.
and she led us these very specific directions where there was a dead body. There was a dead body that decomposed all the way to a
With
skeleton
the squirrel bag.
with the squirrel bag still. Yeah, he probably could eat the nuts though to survive a little bit.
But I
He
don't know.
didn't think of that.
That's yeah, that's one of those. Wow, I didn't see Kathy Bates and the squirrels coming, and I didn't see the signs of you should have bought a squirrel.
Yeah. And then from there, they get into the rocket car, which are trying to break the sound barrier, right? And they just kind of sneak into this car. Nobody's paying attention.
Played by a real scientist.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool. And they, you know, go far as fast as they can, and then they run out of fuel, and they're all shaken up. That they end up on a bus of they say crazy people with some sort of disability or
mental
uh,
handicap.
mental handicap, um, and they sound like they are crazy in the sense of like we got here from the rocket car, and they're like, sure you did, like
I should have
let's
bought
get
a
on the bus.
squirrel.
Yes.
Yeah,
Um, and then that's pretty much they're on the bus until
they hit Silver City.
they hit Silver City. So like that's it for them. And to be honest, they don't have much. Um, I don't think they weren't the most riveting characters, those two. So for me,
No,
I was like, anytime they came back on screen, while I like Whoopi, I was kind of like, all right, but don't let's move on from them. Uh, Owen, I think, has a good second half of the story. I'm not crazy about the taxi driver pantsing him and taking him all the way into the middle of the desert.
played by Paul Rodriguez, a comedian.
Mm-hmm. And he lost $20,000 on that game. People, this is why they say please gamble responsibly.
Yeah,
You should not be losing 20K on one game.
if you can't afford it, like if you're not one of those rich billionaires, if you can't afford to lose that money, like you shouldn't be gambling.
And gambling is so prevalent nowadays. I don't do it. I know I'd probably get addicted to it or something. I have a personality like that, so I don't do it. Even with those free deals and like the sports gambling and stuff, I don't understand gambling in the sense of like when they talk money lines and stuff. I don't
Yeah,
really pay
plus
attention to that.
250 minus six.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't.
like whatever.
For me, the only thing I do is there's a bunch of buddies that I work with at the post office. Usually on long weekends, we'll get together. We'll go over one of them's house and we'll play poker.
And that's fun. Like I like
But
poker. I haven't played it like at an actual casino, but I liked learning poker. I had a poker themed birthday party when I was in high school.
it's also like I might pull out like 150, 160 bucks. And basically like I look at what I can afford, like okay, whatever I can afford. I'm basically counting that money is gone. Like I'm not planning on coming home with that money. Not that I'm a
Right.
horrible poker player, like I'm not really good, but we're not all professionals. We're like just a bunch of amateurs. We're just a bunch of dudes who work together, like each other. We play poker, like so. Our skill levels are all pretty comparable, right? Not I'm not playing with like Doyle Brunson over
You're
here
not
or
like
anything,
counting
right?
cards and stuff.
Yeah, but well, Phil, we're not playing with Phil Hellmuth over here. Those are actual like legitimate poker players. Um, but so like
T.S. Hines. I remember watching him win the World Series
World
of
Series of
Poker.
Poker.
Yeah.
Those are two of the names I know. But so like I count like that money's gonna be gone. And if I come back with money or like I win, great. If not, but like usually we do in like a $50 buy-in, and then we just all have chips and we do like and we just spend the night eating and talking trash to each other and playing poker, and that's it. Like I've won more than I've lost, but I've had some nights where I have lost. I've come home with nothing. But like I said, I've also like it's not like I'm not going to be able to pay my rent. It's not like I'm not
Right.
going to be able
Right.
to eat. Like I can afford it, and that money was pretty much going to be gone. So
Yeah. It's all about the
knowing your limits.
knowing your limits. And I'll say I enjoy stuff like that more. I still haven't ever gambled on poker, like, but in the fact of like I would like having some sort of control in the sense of I choose if I'm folding or whatever.
Yeah,
When you're just gambling on a sport for me, that's where I can get a little no thanks, because I know the one time I gamble on the team that would usually win, they're gonna lose. So
it's. I mean, you can gamble on what color Gatorade they're going to pour at the Super Bowl.
yes, yeah, it's kind of been some insane bets lately, honestly. But yes, this guy lost 20K, so he's upset. He pantses Owen, leaves him out in the hot
Well,
sun.
he gets lucky because he had him in the cab, didn't know who he was, and another cabbie was like, "Oh, don't you know who you had in your cab?" And he tells him who it was.
Yeah,
So
and then
when
he
they
ends
leave,
up in the same cab.
well, yeah, he ends up back in the same cab later, and then he tricks him. He's like, "Oh," so first of all, he's like, "Oh," so he's gonna get in the cab and go straight to Silver City, Maryland, in a cab, like, like that would
New
be
Mexico,
utterly
not
ridiculous.
Maryland. That would be quite
Oh
the
yeah,
drive.
so but so yeah, Silver City, New Mexico, but like one, I don't even know if a cab from Vegas could drive that far, right? Not that
Yeah,
like I know
9
physically
hours.
can, but like I don't know if the cab company would even let like you take the cab that far without like some sort of prepayment ahead of time or something. Like there's logistics to look at here. You can't just be like hailing a
I
cab, taking
I don't know.
across
My
country.
grandfather once took a cab from Baltimore to New York. I mean, I know that's 4 hours about, but still, like that's crazy.
It is, but that's also, I mean, all you got to do is get on 95, go north. But at the same time, like that might have been, that's a pretty well traveled corridor because I know like there are people who take the train every day from like
Yeah,
Hartford to DC, New York to feel like, so that might be just a little more common simply because like that's well traveled enough that like, you know, it's not that bad. You're not ending up in the middle of the desert where like some dude could do horrible things to you. I don't know. He won't give him a price for how much. Then he decides to take him off road in the desert, which I'm not really sure about taking a cab off road in the middle of the desert anyway. Doesn't take much to pop a tire. Then you, the
it's a
cabbie, are out of
shortcut.
luck too. Yeah. Then you're out of luck too, there, cabbie.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And this is before like there were some cell phones, but it was not
yeah.
as big, and we don't know what their coverage was at the desert. So
Oh, there probably was no coverage in the desert because you
yeah,
didn't have
yeah.
coverage in like cities at the time.
True, true.
And not only that, but like you're paying by the minute. Like so, back in that time period, um, if you had cell phones, you probably don't remember this.
No, I do. I do. Where you had to pay like prepaid cards or pay by the minute.
Well, no, a lot of times like you would only get free calls like after like 9 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah, if there are other Verizon and stuff, yeah.
So like, like you would have to pay for calls between like 9 a.m. or whatever and 9 p.m. So you wouldn't want anybody to call you until like after 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever it is. And then some companies started getting better, like, oh, we get free calls after 7. Ooh, I'm gonna switch to them. You know, so
It is crazy how fast and how far we've come with stuff like that. Like I remember that. And I remember when I first had my cell phones even almost 20 years ago. It was like high school. I had my first phone 2005. And yeah, I would have to tell people like you'd be asking, "Are you Verizon?" "Oh, I can't call you then. Sorry." Like cuz I had Verizon. It was like Verizon was free.
yeah,
So if you didn't have Verizon, sorry, like I have to call you after 9 or whatever. Like and
I
that was the thing.
I remember we got back from Iraq when we invaded in 2003. I want to say in like August or September, right? So we were gone for about a year. Technology changed drastically in the year we were gone, right? So now all of a sudden you had cell phones and like text messaging. But at the time, you had to pay per text. Like, so text messaging wasn't free either. But they got everybody because it was like free text messaging for the first month. So like people were like going crazy and sending these texts. Hey dude, what's up? LOL, ha ha ha. All this other stuff. The first month it was all good. And then that bill hit for the second month and you didn't realize you were paying like 25 cents per text. And you're sitting there sending stupid texts to people all day. Next thing you know, people have like $600-700 cell phone bills and stuff.
Right, right. And I mean nowadays it's just
Free.
so many unlimited and stuff. Yeah. Um
So yeah, so Cuba Gooding ends up walking through the desert.
yes,
Uh,
and then he will come across a rest stop where they are waiting. A few people are waiting for their bus driver to get out of the bathroom. He decides to go in there, and he's going to get all the bus driver's clothes by telling him his wife is having a baby.
this is the most ridiculous excuse I've ever heard in my life.
Yes, I.
And
You're
how
not
the
getting my
bu-
clothes. I'm sorry.
yeah, how the bus driver falls for it, I don't know.
And then what
And he,
happens? Because he asks for his pants, and then eventually you see him walk out with his shirt too. So like, what do you say to get his shirt off?
at one point he's like, you need my coat for what? For the placenta.
Right. And then the pants, he's just like vagina, and he's like, all right.
Yeah, I get it. Had to move the story along. Like they
Yeah.
got to get. So I get it, but that was one of those like, yeah, come on.
I
So
do
yeah,
like though when he comes out and they're like, "What happened to that guy?" He's like, "His wife's having a baby." Like how he just totally flipped it to the same excuse, but flipped it to the guy having a baby instead of him having like Owen having the baby. It's now the other bus driver having the baby.
so now he's driving a bus that's going to New Mexico.
Yes, the third annual Lucy convention.
He's on a bus with nothing but
But
Lucille
cosplayers.
Ball lookalikes.
Yes. Who are all obsessed with the show, saying, "What's your favorite episode?" My favorite episode is season 1, episode 34. Like stuff like that.
Not only that, but they all have the mannerisms down, the
The hair.
crying, the wailing.
Wah.
Yeah. Uh, now, don't get me wrong. I loved Lucy as a kid just as much as everybody else because it was a great show. And I've said this on other podcasts with you before. I don't know when it happened, but I've had an affinity for redheads for a long time. Can't explain it. So,
I guess it started there.
well, no, those were all in black and white though.
True. What about Gilligan's Island?
Could have been. Could have been. I'm like I said, I don't know. I've always had an affinity for redheads. I can't explain it.
Ginger and Gilligan's Island, and Marianne too. I mean, she wasn't redhead, but those were some crushes of mine when I was watching reruns on Nick at Night.
The first one I distinctly remember though was Scully from The X-Files.
Okay.
Gillian Anderson.
Yes. Every time I think of Gilligan's Island now, though, I think of do you remember ever seeing commercials for TBS having a reality show of Gilligan's
I
Island?
vaguely do, and I don't know. It just kind of
I watched it.
it wasn't good, was it?
No, it wasn't. But it was good in the sense of like I'm watching this weird show, but it was not good.
I never understood a few things. One, why Gilligan managed to live that long because he should have been killed. He always managed to ruin everything.
Gilligan.
Two, this was brought up in a comedy routine. The professor can make a radio out of a coconut, but couldn't patch a hole in the ship.
Yeah.
That.
He could do whatever the plot called for.
3, why did the Howells have all their money with them on the island? Were they on the run from the law? Like, what is going on here?
They just didn't trust banks. Instead of burying it, they took it with them everywhere.
Now, there was a conspiracy theory thing I saw that said maybe they were on the run from the law, and that's why they had their money with them because they had to pull out whatever they could from the bank.
Did they cause the crash so that way they wouldn't be found?
I actually that was part of it. Was there was supposed to be another ship waiting? They were supposed to go down with the ship, quote unquote,
right,
and die in the accident, and then get rescued or something. But something happened. That was like a weird conspiracy theory about it. But, man,
that is a all-time theme song for me too. I really like that theme song.
Yeah, every time it gets stuck in my head, it's just. But it's a great.
You'll be singing it tonight. And then we have he gets the bus gets. There's a whole episode of I Love Lucy in this thing. When the try to flush the thing down the toilet, it knocks the soap into it, the bubbles come through, and it's playing the theme song of I Love Lucy as they go. And then we also get they pull over and something wrong with the tire.
One of the Lucys isn't a Lucy.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we have that, and they are looking pretty intently at Owen when Owen is stripping too at this part. But yeah, they get the hair on fire. They also have something wrong with the tire. The bus falls over.
They lose the tire because they end up taking it out and wheeling it down. Yeah,
he's like, that's the spare, and they're like rolling it down the hill.
And then they start their thing again. Wah! He ends up like coming out with the truth where he's not the bus driver and all this other stuff.
I like this part too when they're like, he's like, I'm no bus driver. They're like, don't say that. You're
the
great.
Best bus driver ever. And then he spits the truth out and they're like, you ruined our vacation. Like, look, as much as I love redheads, and that might be a version of heaven for me with me and a harem of redheads like that. Harem of angry redheads like that.
Most of them are probably just wearing wigs too, but yeah.
Doesn't matter. Don't care. Not a concern of mine. but the aspect of now they're all angry at you because they realize like the only reason they're in that situation is because you conned everybody,
Yep.
and now they're mad at you, and your life might be on the line. Not a good situation to be.
And that's pretty much his storyline as he is going to he somehow gets involved with the hot air balloon too, doesn't he?
I think at some point,
Oh, that's how they crash. That's how they crash. Okay. Yeah. But he then steals a horse and rides to Silver City. That's how he gets there.
and he's holding up traffic while he's doing it, which
Yes.
now everybody else is behind him in traffic.
And then we have the only one we didn't really
Well, they have the
finish.
brothers.
Oh yeah, the brothers. The brothers who
They caused the outage at the airport.
yes, they cause the outage at the airport. This is a scene I was talking about. There's no way you could get that car there nowadays. I don't know if you even could back in 2001.
Probably
But
not.
to cause this outage for the air traffic control. Um, and then we have them go and they decide, let's split up, but we only have one key. So they decide they are going to get a key made, a copy, and then they will split up and it doubles their chance of getting there.
Not gonna lie, that's
Great idea.
fantastic idea. Like I would not have thought of that. Phenomenal. Like that
Mm-hmm.
is one of the. But the only problem is, well, granted they're brothers, so I'm sure they would run into each other at some point. But might work with them. I don't think it works with Vera and her daughter, simply
No,
because they
yeah,
don't
no.
know each other well enough to where like if one of them gets there first and gets the money, like they could take off from the other one.
Right.
But in all fairness, like a brother will stab you in the heart, stab you in the back quicker than anybody else can sometimes. So
Yeah, and they're kind of like, who would have hold of the key, before they decide to have a second key made. So they were not trusting of each other at that point either. Um, but yeah, so that's their journey. But they are not discreet when they're
as
talking
the
to
as the telling
the
as
guy.
one's telling the other guy like be don't say anything to anybody.
It's $2 million. You can't tell anybody.
Yeah. He's saying it out loud in front of like some random dude making this key. Come on, dude.
I like when I forgot how this worked. I remember him making the key for him. Um, but I forgot that the when he gives him the two keys and it doesn't even have any jags in
Yeah.
it at all for the lock. It's just a
It's just a blank
straight
key.
flat blank key. Um but yeah, no, that part I like how that's a smart guy who's making the keys. Like, all right, I'm gonna try to make this discreetly. Keep their key, give them the fakes, and I'm gonna get there and get those the money.
Now here's one question I got for you. Now, I can say this because at Walmart we used to have to make keys, right? So anytime, even before that, anytime I would get a copy of the key, I would always hold it up to the original key to make sure it was the same. Do people
Mm-hmm.
not do this?
Yeah, I guess not. I guess they didn't, right?
When was the last time you got a copy of a key made? Did you double check it?
When we bought our house, we made copies for like our family, in case of emergency.
Yeah. Did you like double check them and like?
We tested them actually, but that's the thing, we couldn't test. Like I could hold them up and be like they look similar,
Yeah.
but like we actually came home and like tested them, made sure they worked, which they couldn't do. But
Yeah.
you
You
think
have
they
the
would at least look
ability.
at the key?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that is they are so close to getting there before they have a car crash due to a woman flashing them.
Well, then
Because
there's a hot air balloon and a cow.
yeah, that part is we'll
And
skip over the hot air balloon and the cow. They somehow get in a hot air balloon. That's where the guy is escaping with the key, and then a cow somehow gets involved, and it's my least favorite part of the movie. But then they're eventually almost there, and they're riding along next to these two girls, two women, and the woman has a lot of piercings, which matches the brother who has all the piercings, and they kind of start having this little
Flirtation between the two of them.
flirtatious, I'll show you mine, you show me yours for these piercings. And at one point he flashes his nipple piercing and she flashes her nipple piercings, and it causes them to run off the road here. But they do have a happy ending. She does end up at the Smash Mouth uh, feed the what is it called? Feed the world.
Yeah,
Um, feed the earth or whatever. And they end up having their end of their
happily.
storyline with the
Yeah.
kissing and stuff. So that's great.
Oh, we have Mr. Bean left.
Yes,
Enrique.
and he wakes up, goes out and gets hit by Wayne Knight immediately. And then we get this second appearance of the lawyer be like, stay right there. And he recognizes her and he's like, we're getting out of here. And he is going to give him a ride to Silver City
He
because he
happens
has
to
to
be going.
deliver
Yeah.
a heart transplant. Because the planes are down, and that's come back around now. Like, he would not have got hit by that car because if the planes had still been working, but because they caused a plane issue, he now has to drive the transplant, which then gets uh, him hit by the car, and then they're driving. Um, I like Wayne Knight a lot. I like his character in this when he is, for some reason, wanting to really show off that he has a heart back there. One, I like that Mr. Bean is singing a totally different song, right, than what's on the radio, because it's like Chit Chit Change is on and he's singing RESVECT, and Wayne Knight just turns it off. And he's like, okay, I'm not gonna, he's like slowly drifts off his singing.
Would you want to see the heart?
No,
Yeah, same here. Me, no desire to see it.
I don't think he wanted to see it either. I think Wayne Knight was like, hey, I want to show you the heart, and that's what you're going to see.
I don't want to open up, like, if I'm Wayne Knight, I get it for the story. Got it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if I'd want to open that up and see what the heart looks like.
He has to get there by 7 p.m. too. Which he doesn't, by the way, because we leave him still in the middle of the where the heart's lost, because the heart flies out of the window at some
Well,
point
first they
after
drop
falls on
it.
the floor. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's putting it back in the bag and it falls out the window. Then a dog gets it. The dog gets electrocuted by the fence. And there's maybe bite marks on the heart, but Wayne Knight tries to say that they are. No, they were there. They were there. And then he gets the idea of killing Enrico to replace
killing
the
a
heart.
drifter. Just a drifter.
You have nobody. And he gets hit by the bullet train, and he's actually going to end up there first and fall asleep while he's putting the key in the lock.
Okay, so one, we don't have bullet trains in America. We need them. Like, that would be great.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
I get it for the story purposes, once again, I guess. But where did the bullet train come from? What route is that bullet train running?
Yeah,
because like I could see
right in front of that train
Silver
station.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so in Silver
middle of
Spring,
the
New
town.
Mexico. Like I could see a bullet train from like San Francisco to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to like Las Vegas, Seattle and Portland and San Francisco connecting up and down the East Coast, right?
I'm assuming Silver City is like a stop on it, but I don't know where else it'd be going. Yeah.
El Paso on its way to like
Albuquerque?
Dallas, or Albuquerque, El Paso, Dallas, then splits off to like Houston, San Antonio, stuff like that. Maybe, I don't know, but I saw this portion coming.
Which part? The sleeping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, okay. I didn't see him falling asleep coming, right?
Oh,
that
really?
I did not see. Like I thought maybe he was gonna get it, and then like hijinks would ensue because once again it's $2 million. So,
Oh, but you're
but
saying where there's no money in it is what you saw coming.
to an extent, because when I saw who I thought was the butler, who we find, like you said, is his lawyer, is there, he's waiting, right? And he's on the phone with him, telling him, okay, Enrique is the first one here, right? And then when he says Enrique, like, or when he walks up to him and finds out his narcolepsy kicked in, I saw coming the fact that, once again, I thought he was a butler, so this made a lot more sense in my mind. He's probably had enough of doing this guy's dirty work. He's taking that money and running. Like,
But it's Vicky instead. It's the call girl.
especially after what he had him do with the call with the sex worker earlier,
Yes.
where he had him walk in, and I guess they wanted to see how long she could last before she was like, or what amount she would give for whatever weird
Yes,
stuff
it
he
was.
wanted to do.
The bet was how much would she charge for getting naked, being in a bath of Pepto Bismol, while he clips her toenails and she shaves his butt.
Yeah,
And it was like 3,000. It was like close to
5,000 or
3,000.
something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I just love that they come out from behind the curtain
Everywhere, yeah. Like they popped out from everywhere. It's like, okay, so and so at
Probably my favorite
4,800. He was
parts.
the first. He was the closest one.
Some of my favorite parts, especially this watch through, was seeing the John Cleese and the billionaires just like random bets and like the plane going all crazy as they're going there. And then it's like somebody finally throws up and they're like,
Okay, you can
tell
tell
them
them
to
to
level
level out
off.
now.
Who had Johnson thrown up first? And it's like, man, they're so addicted to gambling. They're coming up with all this stuff to gamble. Um, but yeah, Vicky, she gets set up in that scene, and then we see her again, and because he tells his lawyer, "Hey, go there,
Right.
um, and do the play-by-play."
I,
He's
I
supposed to
didn't
go by himself,
didn't
and
think we'd
instead
see
he
Vicky
brings
again.
Vicky.
Thought that was the last we were gonna see Vicky. Didn't
Hmm.
imagine seeing her again.
Yeah, I like that they brought her back and kind of made her the antagonist a bit here, where she is taking off with the money, and she tells him, "Hey, why don't you come with me?" And he does until
Obviously, she's gonna leave him again. Like,
yes, yeah, obviously, yeah, until they end up with the balloon dropping the cow on Grissom, and the money goes to the balloon, and then they're on a double decker bus for some reason in Silver City, New Mexico, and they are going like a tour bus, and they
Cuba
end
Gooding
up
Jr.'s driving it again.
yes, because he learned how to drive the bus from the thing, so it's coming together, and then they get the money as after it crashes into the Feed the Earth celebration charity concert with Smash Mouth. And then the
So
billionaires get
two
there too.
thousands. So 2000s right here.
So 2000s is actually the part where they end the movie on All Star as they are
Singing and
all
dancing.
crowd surfing, singing
Yeah.
and dancing over the credits. That is so 2001. But yeah, no, it's great to see Steve Harwell and Smash Mouth.
It made me sad, man. I'm not
It
gonna lie.
did
It made
make
me
me
sad
sad
for a second.
too, but it made me happy a bit in the way of, all right, he's immortalized in Rat Race
Well, not only that, but like,
as
so
his
like,
actual self. Because people will say Shrek, but like this is him on screen. I like that.
but not only that, but like, so look, music goes through different generations, and
Hmm.
when I was a kid, the music I listened to, older people thought was crap, right? And now I'm at that point. I'm 45, and I can't listen to any of this stuff that kids are listening to now because I think it's all garbage. I get it. Like, it goes through generations. It goes through things. And I listen to stuff from just a certain period of time, from like the late 70s up until like 2010. Like that's the only stuff I listen to. But you can say what you want, and people might not have liked Smash Mouth and All Star or stuff like that when they first came out, or talk trash about them. But look, the music was good back in the day. Like, it was. And there's a whole generation of us who hear stuff like that and go back to being like in our mid 20s and can still imagine seeing people with frosted tips out there and like
Yeah, I mean the Ray, John Lovett's
Sugar
kid
Ray and
has the
yeah,
frosted tips too.
and hearing like Sugar Ray and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Like, but like, is everybody gonna like that music? No, but like, is somebody old like me gonna hear something like that and just get a little nostalgic, wishing he was 20 some odd years younger again? Yeah, yeah, it will.
yeah.
So something like Smash Mouth is always gonna, like I said, uh, I was listening to YouTube Music the other day, and because of your likes and things, it recommends stuff for you,
Mm-hmm.
and it uses Google's algorithm. And there was a bunch of songs that came up, and I was like, wow, I really like this song. I don't have it in my iTunes collection, so I had to go buy it. Like Frankie Valli, and like I said, there was some stuff from Smash Mouth and various other things, and I would like. It's a very weird and eclectic playlist I have, but like for me, it's one of those like I like it. So yeah, and then like when I hear it, I get sad because it's like he just passed away a few months ago, and from out of nowhere, and it's like man,
Yeah. Um, it was great to see this, and they kind of guilt them into giving the. They all decided on the bus they were going to split the money, but they decide they're going to give it to here, and the last one that needs convincing is Seth Green's character.
so I got a question for you, right?
Yes, would I give it?
What would you do? If you had been any of those characters, everything you had been through in that 24 hours or whatever it was to get from Las Vegas to Silver City to get your hands on that money, to include whatever money you might have lost paying for plane tickets and this and that and gas and rental cars and train tickets, and now you have it. You don't have the
I
full 2 million. You've got part of it, whatever your share is going to be.
I think I have to give it because there's a few things you have to think about here. One, I'm not good at confrontation. So as soon as Steve Harwell is saying that I'm giving it, it's like, yeah, that's what I meant. Yes, I'm giving this. I'm giving this up. Two, seeing everybody's reactions to Seth Green's thing, like even if I had started doing it that way, I would have been guilted into this because they're on TV. I feel like people would be watching me, and I could have severe repercussions of not giving the money.
Here's what I would have recommended. We give a portion to feeding the peoples.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's what seven of them total, right? Like 7 separate groups or 7 teams or whatever however you want to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's $2 million. So let's say we give 600,000 to this group, right?
Mm-hmm.
That leaves us with 1.4 million divided by 7. That's an equal $200,000 a piece.
Then you gotta take the taxes out.
What tax? Like you gotta prove that. Like
It's
the
probably
IRS. I mean, look,
they tax winnings, don't they?
they you pay tax winnings on gambling and stuff, but this, like, I don't know, it's a contest.
Prize win, like lottery, like prizes and stuff.
Yeah, but this is also some weird contest. Like you're getting this money straight from a billionaire, so maybe it can be considered a gift. I don't know. Like there's lawyers.
I would assume there's going to be tax. I would assume a tax, which means you're probably getting 100,000 if that.
IRS is gonna have to physically come and get some of the money from you. But what I'm saying is like that's the most even way I can imagine to split it up, where everybody gets a set amount. Each group gets a set amount. We can also give money to go feed people, right? But cause remember, this whole group doesn't know what everybody's been through over the last
right
so many hours. Like I'm kind of with Seth Green on this one. Like I don't know if I want to do like you don't know me, you don't know. I don't know what their personal situations are. Like what you gotta guilt me? Like okay, so remember in Superstore when Cheyenne didn't get her she couldn't get maternity leave
Yes, yeah.
because
And
they
they
didn't get
get they
maternity leave.
gifted the hours, yeah.
Well, no, they didn't gift the hours. They basically like,
Clocked
yeah,
in
they
for
kind of
her or
did,
whatever, right? Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
right.
they clocked in for her, and they
And then
clocked in
she
under her
used
name.
her day, yeah, and then she used their days off or something.
And Mateo was the only one who was like, "Hey, so we're gonna get paid back for it?" And you guys were shocked because I was like, kind of with Mateo on this one. Like, this is like, no, this is my time. Like, I'm not
Well, the bad thing is, right? Like that
shouldn't happen.
shouldn't be
Yeah,
needed, right?
like, and I even brought up when we were recording that show. I was like, look, we can have a whole separate discussion about the fact that yeah, she should have got maternity leave. It shouldn't be on her fellow employees to give up time for her to get time off with her baby. Like, I'm not saying she shouldn't deserve that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is now that I have to give up my time to come work for a day that I'm not getting paid for, right?
Yeah.
Where I have to come into work and I'm not getting paid for that day. She is. And you also have to look at the aspect of what if something happened? Like, remember when the sign fell on Mateo and I laughed my ass off for days and days and I
Yeah,
still
yeah.
laugh about it? Like, Mateo would have had to go to the hospital for that, right? Because it's an accident on the floor and there's all other kinds of things that happen, right? Except now they're looking like, because you have to notify your higher chain of command and regional managers and stuff like that. And they're going to have to do whatever little investigation. They're going to find out, well, Mateo wasn't technically clocked in at that point. So we're actually not responsible for paying his hospital bill because he wasn't supposed to be on the floor because he wasn't clocked in. And now that's on him completely by himself. Once again, I'm that dude who looks at weird things like that. So, like, yeah, you want me to give up this money that I worked for these several hours for, almost got killed. Like, he probably would have had several broken, Seth Green would have had so many broken ribs from these cows and various other things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then his brother wants to guilt. What would mom say? She's looking down from heaven on you. Or however he could say it because he couldn't speak. Like, nah, you're not guilting me into this one, man. I can't do it.
And then we have, I think, the best thing, Nick here, telling that Sinclair and his patrons have announced that they would match anything that is raised, and they end up raising more than $19 million while we fade out of this
And
movie.
that's great. But if I'm Sinclair, simply saying, no, I'm not, or you can't prove I said that,
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I have high
here's the
powered
thing.
attorneys. You
He
have
he
nobody.
could he could go that way, but the thing is, again, it's almost this peer pressure of reputation, how
He's
it's
a
gonna look.
billionaire. You think he cares what people think? He's gambling on people's lives here, for Christ's sake.
Well, the way he reacted makes it seem like he's gonna follow through with this and is gonna
He
lose
does.
some
He's a
money.
good human being. I get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's one of the. And in all fairness, it'd
as
probably
he's
just be a
crying
giant tax.
as it
Probably
goes
just be
up.
a giant tax write off for him, anyways. It's not like he's
Exactly,
really
it's
going to lose it.
charity. Yeah, that's true. Um, but yeah, so that is Rat Race.
Now, if this was made today, there'd probably be like a hidden. There'd probably be like a deleted scene somewhere of either like Mr. Bean falling asleep somewhere, or what kind of post credit scene do you think there would be for something like this nowadays?
Uh, Getting conclusion to Wayne Knight's story and the heart, I think, is probably what it would be,
That's a good one. I
because
didn't think
that's
of
what
that.
I would want to see.
Angry Lucy's trying to track down
Yes.
Cuba
Oh,
Gooding
yeah.
Jr. there.
Um. Yeah. Yeah. That would be probably what I would want to see. All right. So let's talk ratings. IMDb, 6.5 out of 10. Metacritic, 52. Rotten Tomatoes, 45% critics,
Wow.
64% audience, and a cinema score of of B plus. I don't know why I was saying 6. Um, so there you go. I will tell you. Probably give this a 3 out of 5 stars. Um, there's some storylines that don't work for me that much, like the Vera and daughter storyline is kind of ho hum storyline. We don't actually get much depth with them either for being a long lost relationship.
Yeah, like if they're gonna connect, if they like,
Yeah.
maybe if they could have gave us like some sort of conversation between the two of them as they're driving or on a bus or something,
Mhm.
trying to reconnect with each other. Because I mean, but I get why they like. You don't want to bring a comedy movie like that down to an extent.
Right.
So I kind of
Right.
get that. But
And
yeah,
then
that was lacking.
uh another storyline. I'm not crazy about the heart storyline in it, but like really the locksmith one I liked for a bit, but once it starts getting to like the cow and the hot air balloon, and the cow even at one point is driving the car, a little over the top for me. That definitely brings it down a bit. But there's some stuff that really works for me. John Lovitz is my favorite storyline in this thing. I like a lot of the Cuba Gooding Jr. stuff. I like Breckman Meyer a lot in this. Not crazy about the helicopter scene, but like
I
I
was gonna
like.
say I wasn't a fan of Amy Smart. She's usually so cute and good in what she does.
Yeah, they
I'm not saying
tried
she did
to flip that on its head and make her a little crazy. Is
a
what I
little.
think they
She
went.
she was way too crazy in this movie.
Yeah, she was. She
Now
was
now
really crazy.
granted, don't get me wrong. When you're flying over your boyfriend's house and you see his ex girlfriend's car there and you see them making sweet love in the pool,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. It's probably gonna drive you a little mad. Not gonna lie. Like I can understand like not being sane at that point. But you shouldn't have been dating Dean Cain. That's all I'm gonna say. Especially
Yeah.
Dean Cain nowadays. But,
Yeah,
uh,
he's gotta be way older than her, right?
yeah, he's probably grooming her now that I think about it.
I mean, Dean Cain is probably in his 60s, 50s.
You know who John Mulaney is?
Yes, yeah.
You ever hear his joke about Dean Cain? So he was talking about watching Law and Order SVU, and he
Mm-hmm.
did this whole thing on Ice T, and it's hilarious. The the
Oh
the
yes,
rapper,
yes, yeah.
the
I know
rapper.
that one. Yep.
And then he said he was watching the episode, and Dean Cain was in the show, and he kind of lost himself for a second, and he was wishing like because they had him in a lineup, and he
Yes,
said he wished like the lady behind the glass could have been like, is that Dean Cain?
yes, yes. I remember that bit.
I don't know why I just thought that, but it's
He's
just
57. He's 10 years older than her. Not as old as I thought, but still. Um, yeah, yeah. So I mean, like, there's some stuff that was a little absurd in this that goes maybe a little too far for me. But the billionaire stuff is great. The Lovett stuff is great. Um, those are the things that really sell me on the movie. But um, so I say 3 out of 5 stars. Casey and I. Twitter, you wanted to see this in theaters. You've finally seen it 22 years later. What are your thoughts?
so. I'll say this: I don't know if it was worth a 22-year wait. Right? Let's be realistic here. Like, there's some things that are worth
A
a
lot
wait.
to live up to.
Okay, so it wasn't as much to live up to as you finally seeing Terminator 2, where
Yes, yeah.
this you had like this whole build up of how epic this movie was, and I probably didn't help where I kept saying like we have the modern action movie because of this. Like every
Yeah, I
time I
was
would
just
talk about
editing
it,
those
right?
recently too.
So, uh, but I think it was an enjoyable movie. It was a good romp. I knew it was going to be wacky when the theme music first came on, when the movie first started.
Talk
It
about
would
the longest opening credits of a movie. Oh my god.
and
I was like,
some
please
wacky
just get
theme
me to the
music with it.
movie.
Yeah. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. It was an
All right.
enjoyable. It was enjoyable. Didn't regret it. Don't really regret not seeing it in theaters. Although I
Yeah.
kind of wonder what it would have been like seeing it on the big screen.
It
But
depends too, like on how your crowd is, if they're digging it or if they're not digging it.
yeah, crowd reaction can definitely make a difference in something like that. Um, but yeah, I give it a solid 3.5 out of 5. Like, especially now, it's not something I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again.
Yeah, yeah.
But knowing where I can find it on streaming, or if I was happen to be, well, like in a hotel or something, and it comes up on TBS or Comedy Central, one of those movies, and I see it, I'd probably stop and watch it, especially now that I know, exactly what it is and I've seen it.
This is a good one to like if you're in Walmart and you're in the $5 bin and you
Oh
see
yeah, I'd
Rat
buy it for
Race, you're like,
$5.
oh yeah, I'll buy that for $5. I'm pretty sure that's how I bought it. Honestly,
Have you ever seen the original RoboCop?
no, I haven't actually. Put it on a
There,
list.
there's an old dude in there. There's a commercial that keeps running through, like the old RoboCop for one of their
Hmm.
TV shows. Some old crazy dude, and he's like, "I'd buy that for $1." So yeah, like what? You know what? That's what we need to add every week now. Would you buy this movie for $5?
Okay, let me write that down.
Or either would you buy it for $5, or what? Like, what's the limit of what you would buy this for on DVD? Like, would you like? I'd pay no more than $10 for this on DVD. I pay full price for it. I wouldn't buy this on DVD. You know, something like that.
All right, I'm adding that to the list
I would
here.
I would buy this for five. I'd spend $5 on this in a random value bucket somewhere, or like a
Yes,
buy one get one free or something. I yeah.
yeah, I definitely I agree with that because and sadly, I don't think we've talked about this lately, but there was no meme that came from this to my knowledge. So
I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a. We didn't get any sort of like Mr. Bean meme from it.
yeah, like the narcolepsy.
Yeah, especially him just falling asleep anywhere, or
Yeah.
yeah, they could. You know what? I think this is one of those I could see maybe a meme coming out in like the next 5 or 10 years, like a whole nother group.
And people
Like
have no clue what movie it's from when they're like quoting this meme.
yeah, or just like a random screenshot of
Yeah.
something, especially like John Cleese. Like I could see like John Cleese or Wayne Knight making a meme from it. Like especially like John Cleese, I'm eccentric. I could see that becoming a meme or something like 5 or 10 years from now, and people are like, "Where is this from?" And like a whole new group of kids discover like, "Hey, there's this crazy movie from 2001 called Rat Race."
Yeah, I just searched Rat Race meme and
Or
there's not much.
like a crying Lucille Ball meme or something. I could see something coming from it. I think maybe the right people just haven't got to it yet.
There's one that people. Okay, so there are some Mr. Bean memes, okay? There are some Rowan Atkinson memes from this, but like it's hard to
Describe.
describe what they are. But like one of them is him with like Wayne Knight in the car. They're mostly from that scene of him in the car. Um, but yeah, so but nothing that's really been like where I see them while I'm scrolling
Yeah.
online or anything. So um, okay, next pick. What are we watching next week? Because I don't even know this at this point.
All
I
right.
don't think.
So as you said, we record these a little early, so we just had Thanksgiving. But this is going. You told me this episode that I get to pick was going to air the week of Christmas, correct?
Yeah, it should be the 22nd.
Okay. I got lucky. I get 2 holiday episodes this year, so
Yeah.
that's pretty good. I got to pick a horror movie, and I'm going to pick a Christmas movie. So scrolling through my list earlier, and I got kind of confused because there was a movie I have in my collection twice. Once on regular DVD and once on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a half a squiggle that you marked out on regular DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you like started on it or your finger smudged it, but it wasn't marked as you having seen it on Blu-ray.
Is it Scrooged?
Yes, it is Scrooged.
So the half squiggle was I've seen bits on TV.
Okay, so you haven't seen
I
the
haven't seen
entire
the
movie.
full thing. No.
Okay, it is Scrooged, starring Bill Murray. It is yet another retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Mm-hmm.
But this one came out in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. Obviously, I will have more info on its release date next week when we record this, as we watch this and everything. But
1988.
wow, this movie's almost 40 years old.
Yep.
Bill Murray plays an ad executive in charge of a major television network, and they're getting everything ready for their Christmas show that year. And he is obviously in the Bob Cratchit role, or not Bob Cratchit. He's in the Ebenezer Scrooge role. Bobcat Goldthwait plays the Bob Cratchit role of the guy who gets fired, loses his job on Christmas Eve. He goes down on his luck, and he gets visited by three ghosts: the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, the ghost of Christmas future, to show him how if he doesn't change his ways, what his life will be doomed to, and how everything in the past has shaped his Christmas and what he views the holidays as. There's a lot of different versions of A Christmas Carol out there. One of my favorites is the Muppet Christmas Carol, because I love the Muppets. If you don't like the Muppets, I don't know if I want to be involved with people who don't like the Muppets these days. They're pure and whole, and I love Jim Henson. But so this is probably my first or second favorite version of A Christmas Carol.
All right.
I am a big dork, okay? And I've had many Christmases alone because I live by myself and I've been single for way too many Christmases. So Christmas Day, when I get up every year, I watch three things. I watch the cartoon version, the old school Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas from TBS. I watch this, Scrooged, and then I put on what has to be watched every year because they show it 24 hours consecutively. I watch A Christmas Story because these bring me back to my childhood and make me think. And I love Christmas time and I love the holidays. And it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And then I feel lonely. But that's beside the point. So, your homework is to watch Scrooge. It is streaming on Amazon. It is streaming on Paramount Plus. So you have a couple of different ways to watch it. I checked it earlier today to make sure. Because I know we ran into an issue last week, or a couple weeks ago with Terminator 3, of like, hey, it's free on YouTube. So,
not anymore.
To everybody who's listening, as of the day we recorded this episode, it was streaming on Amazon and on Paramount Plus. Hopefully it is still there if you choose to watch it. But I think you will enjoy A Christmas Carol, Scrooged.
And what I'll say too is whenever just for people listening, if you hear us say it, a streaming service that it was on, also check the show notes, because while there is a lag from when I post it from when we record it, I usually will update the show notes more recently. So like while we said Terminator 3 was on YouTube TV, YouTube for free when we were recording that episode, by the time we got around to Terminator 3 and it wasn't, I have put in the show notes rent or purchase for that. So like if we said Amazon and Paramount for this, and it turns out by the time I post it, it's on Disney Plus for whatever reason, then I'll put Disney Plus in the show notes. So just make sure all accurate, updated information is in the notes.
And especially as we're getting close to Christmas, as we get closer to Christmas time, we have about a month between by the time we record the show and when it, when Christmas Day will happen. There's always a chance it'll get pulled off one network and
go to another one.
Yeah. Or they'll stop making it free so they can try and get a couple of bucks from people for Christmas to rent it or buy it or whatever. Also has Carol Kane, Buster Keaton. Who's the lady from Indiana Jones?
I just had her name, Karen Allen.
Yes, she is in this as well.
All right, so we will watch Scrooged. I've only seen bits and pieces. I know what it is, like you said, Christmas Carol. So we'll watch that. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to extend the Christmas festivities because at least it's going to be a little Christmas themed for my pick after that as well, going into New Year's. So we'll have at least 2 weeks of some
holiday
Christmas
cheer
themed stuff. Yeah. So thank you all for watching and listening along with us. You can follow us at all of the links below in the show notes or on the YouTube video description. Have a great rest of your week, and we will catch you next time for Scrooged.